Looking to become a freight dispatcher and you are a little bit confused. Does it make sense to dispatch dry van in beginning, reefer, step deck, Conestoga, sprinter van, maybe car hauler? Well, those are valid questions because you are brand new, or maybe you started with equipment which is harder to dispatch and you are having a hard time. Well, my name is Alex. I'm a founder and dispatcher of Training Center, and many of you have been following us. You've been taking our trainings, and let's discuss. Today, we're going to talk about dispatching reefers. And why we're gonna concentrate on reefers? Because on Thursday we have a special webinar, live calls for reefer dispatchers. It's actually going to be 5 hours and it's interactive, it's hands-on. And that's when I'm gonna share some tips, some advices, and we're going to see what do you have to concentrate on as a reefer dispatcher. Well, first, let's pay attention to few different things. What are the challenges for dispatching the reefer? And the first challenge, you need to know your equipment. And when I'm telling you to know your equipment, first you need to understand some terminology. What does it mean? TRU, trailer refrigerated unit. Do you need to know who makes those units in the USA? Of course you do, because you're going to be a pro dispatcher. And if you know who made your reefer, maybe it will be easier for you to assist your driver when he has breakdowns. And if you've been doing it for a while, you know it's a Carrier or Thermo King. Will I advise you to invest in one or another? Well, actually, I can do that because I do have experience with the reefers, and when I was buying my reefers in the beginning, I thought it's not gonna make a difference if that's a Carrier or Thermo King, but after a while, for me personally, I do prefer Thermo King units. Why? Because they are more durable, they hold the temperature better, and actually, I do like to deal with Thermo King dealers all over the USA. So there you go, my first tip. Well, secondary, well, commodities. What type of commodities do we haul on the reefer? So let's just break two different types. We have fresh meat. Do you need to pay attention what kind of meat are you going to be hauling? Yes, if it's going to be fresh chicken, you're going to be dealing with probably killing farm, unless it's already processed chicken. If you are dealing with fresh beef, pay attention to the value of the load. Nowadays, that steaks are so expensive, so the full trailer of fresh filet mignon or good Kansas steak, it's not gonna cost 100,000, it's gonna be more. So as a pro dispatcher, you need to always ask about the value of the load. Also, when you're talking to broker and you discussing that you're gonna pick up the fresh meat, doesn't matter if it's a pork, if it's a chicken, if it's a beef, is he going to compensate you for washout afterwards? Because unfortunately, the reality is your trailer will have some blood and you need to clean, because we all strive to have food grade trailer. No odor, no smell, no debris. Food grade trailer means that it's going to be in a great condition. Can dry van be a food grade trailer? Yes. Can the reefer have to be a food grade trailer? Of course, it's a must. Well, then we have dairy products. What are specifics about dairy products? Well, milk, butter, yogurt, and eggs. Pay attention to eggs. If you're gonna insist for your driver, mandatory to go wash your trailer inside and out, and also your truck. Is that cheap nowadays? Well, I think it's cost about from $150 to $200. Is that going to be reimbursed by the broker? And remember, you have to wash your truck and trailer inside and out the same day. and you need to have that receipt. So there is no fakeness because your driver is gonna deadhead to that facility, and facility is going to deny that trailer because he does not have valid receipt from washout today. Should you know that as a reefer dispatcher? Of course you do. What else is there for reefer dispatcher to consider? Wow, produce loads. We all dealing with the produce loads, seasonal produce loads, and we need to know where they come from. So, as a pro dispatcher for the reefer trailers, you need to know, where do we grow cherries? Well, Washington. Where do we grow apples? Again, Washington, Michigan, upstate New York. Where does lettuce come from? Well, lots of times it's come from California, but when it's not season in USA, we are bringing it from Mexico. Where are you going to be crossing this? Which cities? Is that going to be San Diego? Is that going to be Yuma, Nogales, Laredo, McAllen? So do you see? Even knowing the cities is important if you guys going to be working as a reefer dispatcher. What does it mean, downloadable TRU? The TQL broker is asking you, hey, Alex, is your driver has downloadable TRU? Well, that simply means that the unit on your reefer can download the history of the temperature. See, simple as that. What does it mean to set the temperature on continuous? What does it mean to set the temperature on stop and go? Do you see how many little questions are already arising just listening to this little presentation about dispatching reefer trailers? Well, do they gonna pay attention on produce loads? What does it mean to pulp the temperature? Who is in charge of that? Broker has to pulp the temperature, dispatcher sitting somewhere in India or Pakistan or Moldova, or actually driver has to pulp the temperature of the produce. I hope that you understand that there is a lot of tricks and tips that you need to know. Knowledge is the key. Well, what else is going on with the reefers? Driver must pre-cool trailer. Is that important? I can tell you, this is actually crucial. Let's be honest. Lots of people in truck and complain about reefer trailers. And they are stating, well, those facilities are usually very strict for pickup or delivery. Let's just name few of them. Americold, USA Food, Midwest Refrigerator, Cisco, CNS, Food Lines, Publix, Walmart. Everybody's bringing or shipping or buying refrigerated food. Why? Because we as humans, we have to eat every day. But a lot of times, dispatcher is not telling the driver that he needs to pre-cool his reefer to minus 10 degrees because commodity is going to be frozen bread. There is a strict appointment in Americold and he comes there on time. He checks in at 11 a.m. and they are not loading him until his trailer is going to reach that minus 10 degrees. Whose fault is this? Dispatcher, driver, broker, Americold? Well, simply this is a dispatcher who did not relay information to the driver, and driver if he did not listen to instructions of the dispatcher. So there is a lot of little things that you can learn, you can prevent, and you can improve. For me personally, being the reefer dispatcher is very rewarding. First, when we have seasonal cherries, apples, right now we have pumpkins. Well, those loads are really pay, right? Because they need to ship those pumpkins before Halloween. Everybody wants to make money. Candy loads. Nowadays, we are all shipping. If you are in Chicago, you go to Ferrera Candy and you pick up those candies and you bring them everywhere, not just on Midwest, but East Coast, Southwest, and all other commodities which happen to be seasonal. The next spike is going to be in Minnesota because we're going to be preparing to Thanksgiving. We're going to be shipping lots and lots of fresh of turkey. And where turkey grows? Well, Minnesota and North Carolina. As a dispatcher, do you need to know where we have actually production of food, where we actually grow food, and where we actually importing it from? Yes, yes, and yes. What else? Let me open few rate confirmations for Reefer. And let's see if they are a little bit different than for drive-in. Well, first it says, if you're gonna ever pick up fresh meat from killing farm, pay attention to the fuel in your reefer unit. And you should have at least 2 3/4 of fuel, mandatory. So trailers must be food grade, clean, dry, odor, and damage free. You need to make sure that if you are dealing with temperature control loads, that's what we call reefer loads, you and your driver are required to check the temperature on BOL. And you would think, well, we have the rate confirmation. It says there 34 stop and go. You go pick up the dairy products and it says continuous. As a smart mouse dispatcher, you can say, well, the rate confirmation says 34 stop and go. But the reefer load always gonna go by BOL. So that's why your driver has to check BOL. He needs to double check the settings because maybe he put it on stop and go, but the BOL says continues. Before he leaves that shipper, he'd better change those settings. Well, what else is going on? Well, if you are dealing with, for example, cherries, and the broker gives you hot paying load of cherries all the way from Washington, and you go into East Coast. Let's say you're going to Hunts Point Market to distribute those juicy red, yellow cherries all over East Coast. Well, they are telling you first, reefer must be set on the continuous. If you cannot make on-time delivery, do not take load, as there will be a fine for late delivery. We are not responsible for any gate fees, toll, tickets, or violation. And driver must to hold the temperature. If the temperature of the product is higher than on rate confirmation, do not leave the shipper. Call the broker. And do you think that drivers like to tell you the truth? No, they don't, because if that temperature is higher, and let's say those cherries were not pre-cooled, the driver simply doesn't want to waste his time. Because if he tells you that it's higher, you're gonna contact the broker. Broker is gonna contact the shipper. Let's say I'm in Yakima, Washington Fruits, and Washington Fruits gonna say, well, we need to take cherries back, we need to put them in cooler, pre-cool, and then you can go on your way to Bronx. First, it's not gonna take 30 minutes, it's gonna take few hours. So if you have a tight transit and you don't have a really team and you were trying to bring this load as a solo guy acting like a team, well, here problems already gonna arise. Secondary, now your logbook is affected, your transit is affected. So that's why a lot of drivers, even though they pulp the temperature, they are not telling you the truth. And how can you go around it? Well, simply ask the driver to send you picture when he is taking that temperature. And some drivers are very, very clever. He's gonna send you the same picture of cherries from previous year. Pay attention. And for me personally, I do not trust pictures anymore. Nowadays with technology, I want to FaceTime you from any app you are using, and I want you to show that then temperature is exactly what I need. Trucking is not easy. People are not being honest. As the owner of the company, I can dictate my own rules. So if you're not willing to show me that real temperature, well, probably we're gonna say goodbye to each other. But in the future, when you guys are gonna be working with reefers, drive, and flatbeds, you guys going to learn a lots and a lots of different things. Let's look, for example, when you book and load on the load board. I'm gonna just share with you Coyote. And Coyote is not that big on reefer loads, but I want to actually share with you. Let me make it bigger. So first, I posted truck reefer available for tomorrow in Chicago. So they have posted load from Melrose Park to Charlotte, North Carolina. So let's see, is this enough information for you to book the load for reefer on the load board right away? Well, first, we can see that it's picking up in Melrose Park, 8 o'clock, 8 in the morning, strict pickup. That means that your truck should be empty already today, unless you have a very, very early delivery tomorrow morning at 4-5. Then you can make it. Otherwise, what's gonna happen? You're gonna be late, you're gonna pay late fee, or maybe the load is gonna be canceled and they're gonna find somebody else who can pick up there on time. Well, you go into Charlotte, North Carolina, look again. You have 6 a.m. delivery 2 days later. They are posted for $2,025.67, calculates for you right away without your deadhead that it would be $2.50 per mile. They are asking for the reefer, 53. They want to make sure that you have reefer air ride. The temperature will be 55 degrees. The weight is going to be 8,800. Here's your miles. They want to make sure that you check in as Coyote, and you're gonna be delivering to Charlotte, DC, and they don't even tell you the commodity. By the temperature and the weight, from my own experience, I can tell you it's going to be candy, 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 candy load. So can you really book this? Well, you could, and you can start playing here with the numbers. But we opened this today just to look at details, what they give about the load for reefer. It's gonna say no touch. Well, that means your driver does not have load or unload. Okay, let's open the next one. Well, we have Northbrook going all the way to Florida. Let's see if requirements are gonna change. Well, same, they want a reefer. They want to make sure that you do not send roll-up doors. Pay attention. So they want swing doors. Has to be a food grade, but what is changing here? Well, minus 10 degrees. Going to Florida. Well, would you rather take candy at 55 degrees or going to Florida minus 10 degrees? Well, I would take candy any day of the week. But you might be a new dispatcher and you don't pay attention. Minus 10 degrees, going to the warm states. First, you are taking liability. Secondary, you're going to spend more money on reefer fuel and you're going to dead Florida. There is no watermelons right now. There is no corn there right now. There is no cabbage. There is no peppers there. Actually, there's not much going on in Florida right now. So if I had to compare those two loads, well, North Carolina sounds better for me. You're gonna deliver to Ockley, Florida, and you have appointment on BOLS, and you have appointment at 10 and 10 o'clock. Here you're going to Highland Baking Company. While Highland Baking Company, you need to make sure you are gonna be there on time. They do not like when your driver is late. Paperwork is required, and they even highlighted strict appointments. Driver must arrive on time or he might be at risk of rejection. Driver cannot dispose any of OS&D products unless authorized by operations. What does it mean, OS&Ds? Well, my students already know. Overage, shortage, damage. Please reach out to Coyote immediately if any overage, shortage, or damage is noted, and driver must remain on site until further instructions. Carrier must provide temperature download if it's gonna be requested. So that means that you need to have the reefer with downloadable TRU, must have in and out times for detention, and has to submit within 24 hours. And in this case, we were talking about frozen bread, 23,000. Let's look at one more load before we gonna be finishing our short video today. So we have a load picking up again in Northbrook, Illinois. It's going to Rocky Hill, Connecticut. We're going to East Coast. The price is $250 per mile, which is actually same as going to Mississippi. What do you have to remember? Well, you're going to East Coast. Your tolls are gonna be way higher. Reload from East Coast is going to be way lower than from Mississippi, because in Mississippi, we do have fresh chicken. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, that's where our poultry comes. So we have fresh chicken, frozen chicken, processed chicken. So if I had to choose to go with product at Mississippi and going to East Coast, well, I choose Mississippi. Here is also minus 10 degrees. Well, we have to go to strict pickup at 12, and we also delivering to Cisco. Well, some shippers and receivers, you'd better stay away. There is Cisco, CNS, Food Lions, Publix, McLean. Why? They're not that organized. They're usually overbooked, and if you're gonna be late, they will charge you late fees. And they charge not some $50 or $100. Some of them are charging $250, $500. So stay away from those facilities. In this case, you're talking about frozen bread, same commodity as going to Florida. So look, we had a load with candy going to Mississippi. We have a load frozen bread to Florida and East Coast. While going to East Coast, it's a tolls. Going to Florida, it's dead. Well, we had a load going to North Carolina. Well, from these four choices, me as a dispatcher, I probably would go North Carolina or Mississippi, but it's up to you to decide. What else do you need to know as a dispatcher? Well, you always need to pay attention to national average prices, and you need to understand that doesn't matter what type of equipment you're working with, everything has little challenges, but the reefers, there is so much to pay attention to for you as a dispatcher when you are booking the load, and for a driver who is in charge of refrigerated loads. There has to be actually mutual understanding that you guys to have to prevent some cargo claims, some rejections, and that comes with the knowledge. So stay tuned. Hopefully put the like, share, comment, dislike. Only through education and knowledge we can change this industry for better. Hopefully I'll see you in my webinars, live calls for the reefers, and I might see you in our freight dispatch training in October. I love you, and I'll see you soon.